In progress.
There we go. Hey everyone, it's Nick here from Childcare Business Growth. So I am on today with the amazing Beth Cannon. Now, I'm not going to give Beth an introduction that she deserves. So Beth, I'm going to pass over to you first of all, if you don't mind. Will you just tell everyone a little bit about you and the amazing work that you do in the childcare sector?
Thanks, Nick. Well, I super love my work with the early education sector. I've been in this business for the last 24 years. My initial intro into early education was through Stretch and Grow, which is an international franchise doing enrichment programs in centers. And we have 12 franchises in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. And I'm also their global trainer. Oh. So I've been training early education business leaders for the better half of the last 20 years. And I transitioned to training so many childcare business owners as well, because I've done training and speaking at events for many, many years, but when COVID hit, all these strategies and systems that I've been teaching in the private sector really became important to share with the community at large. And so the last 2 years have just been a crazy whirlwind of teaching on strategies and systems and leadership and the importance of a strong recruiting and onboarding and leadership process inside of the childcare centers. And so I'm so passionate about helping people with this, and that is what I love to do, Nick.
Nice. So tell me about, if you don't mind, some of the challenges that you've come across, particularly, as you say, over the last 2 years in the childcare sector. What types of things have you come across and you've been able to help people with?
An absolute lack of systems inside of the centers. A lot of pen to paper, a real lack of automation, I think has been it's been very obvious, and a real lack of systems. So whether you're using it to automate or just, onboarding, for example, there's no onboarding systems in so many of our centers. And I'll say, well, what's your onboarding process? Well, they come in and we give them a manual and they read the manual, which they don't. Yeah. And then we put them in a classroom. And so in the last 2 years, what we found is that they find someone who can pass a criminal background check and they have a heartbeat. Yeah. And they get put in a center. And then the culture begins to become very diluted because they're just hiring people that don't necessarily have, whose core values don't align, who doesn't align culturally with what they're trying to create within the center. Yes. And so we found that it's caused very disconnected teams. So my solution is to start with creating values, a strong culture, and then putting some systems in place so that when you bring people into your center, they understand who you are, how you act, and they really understand what to know and do when they get the job.
Now, and that's really interesting, because one of the things I'll always remember, I'm going to share a quick story. I was at a childcare centre in the UK one day, and I remember there was a management team, so a centre director there, and she spent 8 hours onboarding this team member. Okay, she was locked away with this person for 8 hours, and then she did it the next day, and the next day. 3 days in a row she did it. I went back the week later, and I said, oh, where's that new girl that started? Oh, she left. So I said, so you just spent 3 days non-stop with that person, onboarding them, and now they've left. And she's like, don't even go there. And so you're right. So first of all, the lack of automation was a huge problem, first of all. It was great that she was trying to onboard them the right way, spending that time, but also it was a huge waste of her time because it wasn't automated. That process wasn't in place at all. So I always remember, we always did that. So all of our clients now, we always build, a staff training platform, or the onboardings, everything's in there, just to save them in time because of scenarios like that. So tell us, Beth, if you don't mind, you're obviously going to be speaking at Childcare Business Growth Live. I'm super excited to have you there. We've got some amazing speakers talking about staffing, staff recruitment, staff retention. Tell us what you're going to talk about on the first day, if you don't mind.
So I am going to be talking about, it's called Dare to be Self-Aware, about your self-awareness as a leader. And the tool that we're going to use is called the Enneagram. The Enneagram has been around probably literally hundreds of years, and it's just a tool, but it basically describes 9 ways that we look at the world. And you cannot see the world any way than your 9 ways. I mean, there's multiple psychometric tests, right? There's the DISC, there's the Myers-Briggs. The Enneagram is just one of many, but it's a very simple tool to implement, a very simple tool to test and use. And so I think it really helps to understand as leaders who you are when you go high, who you can become when you go low, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your core fears, what are your core motivations. So I really use this tool to help leaders become self-aware, and then it gives them the power, it empowers them to go back, understand the core fears and motivations of their team, because you can't we can't manage with the February 2020 mindset, right? Yeah. Everyone is different, and I think the last few years have brought up a lot of different fears and concerns and priorities with our team. And so my heart is to really help those leaders understand themselves and then go back into their centers and really connect with, first of all, their leaders and then the people on their team, so that they can create a cohesive brand and a business that is fun to show up to every day.
Now, so let's look at that from the point of view. How does that affect, if they don't understand this, if they've never done this before, how do you think that's negatively affecting them in their day-to-day right now? Maybe they're a center director. How would that be affecting them negatively? And then, well, what would be the kind of like the epiphany coming out the other side that would make the difference to them?
Great question. So the majority of early education teachers are 2s on the Enneagram, which are helpers, right? They're meaning that they were wired and created and put on this earth to help people.
Okay.
They can be very sensitive, and sometimes they get off track because they're so focused on helping people that maybe sometimes they show up late to work, or maybe sometimes they don't turn their lessons in on time, or maybe sometimes they're a little bit more people-oriented than task-oriented, so they're not getting work done because they're focused on people.
Okay.
So it doesn't make them bad people. It just means that there are some things that we need to learn to manage around and put this person in their zone of genius, because they're really there to help the people. But sometimes leaders, and often leaders, for example, are 3s on the Enneagram, which they're achievers. Achievers tend, and I'm one, you probably are as well, we tend to be more task-oriented than people-oriented. So we can come across as a lack of empathy, yeah. Right? That we're not as empathetic because we're not really understanding their need and their desire to want to help people. We just want them to focus on getting the work done,
yeah.
Which there's a balance of both, right? But how you approach people based on the way that you know they're wired helps you to really connect with your team. And here's the key, Nick, turn their talent into performance.
Nice.
And when you can communicate in a way that lets them know that they get you, you're going to get performance out of the talented people on your team.
That's amazing, because you've probably heard it time and time again. Maybe a center director gets frustrated because maybe the person's turned up late, or because they haven't done their lesson plan on time, or whatever reason it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing there's a huge shift in the senior management team when they start to understand these things. And they can not only, they'll connect more with their team, they'll have more empathy and understanding towards the team, but they'll probably change the way they position themselves and how they approach those things as well.
Absolutely.
Nice. So just those few minutes there, guys, I'm learning a lot around that particular topic, and it totally makes sense. So Beth, during that session, they'll be able to take away, they'll be able to understand, you're saying, where they are right now. Yes. Is this a tool then they can then take back and use with their teams as well?
Absolutely, Nick. So what we'll do is, prior to the event, we'll send out a link so that everyone coming to the event can take the test. It's a short 10-minute online test where they can take, and they'll come knowing what their number is. So when I speak about it, I'm going to give a broad overview of these are all the numbers. Like I said, there's 9 different numbers, 9 different ways that we see the world. So we'll do some fun things during the session, a little bit, we'll workshop it just a little bit. And it's so fun because everyone loves to learn about themselves, right? It's like, oh my gosh, someone's read my mail.
Oh yeah,
someone's
exactly.
inside of my brain and understands, like, yes, that's me.
Yeah.
I get me now. I get why I do that. And so then we give them that same tool to take back into their teams so they can go in their next staff meeting, in their next team building opportunity, and say, hey, let's learn about each other. Because it's so cool too when you help your teachers understand how they are, like, in their partnering in the classroom, for example. So let's say you've got a 2, which is a helper, and an 8, which is a challenger, right? Challengers can tend to appear aggressive. They can appear to be argumentative, but truly in their hearts, they're social justice warriors. So when they're on your team, they'll fight for you, right? So, but sometimes they come across as a little bit harsh. But when you understand, hey, this person is a challenger by nature, so let's see what we can find in common, and let's get on the same page, and let's lock arms, and let's fight for what we want together, instead of butting heads and thinking, well, she's too sensitive, well, she's just too mean.
Yeah.
that's the problem that we see so often in the drama moments inside of the centers, because sometimes it feels like we're running junior highs because there's a lot of drama, right? Totally. But when we can understand each other and be self-aware, it's really a ninja skill in helping create a positive company culture.
And I guess it works the other way as well. So if you're a senior team member and you understand your team, but also it works the other way where maybe your team that's on the ground working and interacting with children every day can also see why you come across the way you do, because they might see you as, passive aggressive. They might see you as just, they always want more from me. They didn't understand. But I'm sure it works the other way too, and helps the team have a much better understanding of their leadership team as well.
Absolutely.
Nice. So anything else, Beth, you wanted to share with everyone? So well, obviously, guys, if you're coming to the event, Childcare Business Growth Live, July 8th and 9th, we will make sure this comes out to you before the event. So you have it, you can get it done, you can bring the results along. And Beth's going to also show you how to do this with your team as well. So not only are you going to come with knowing what your skill sets are, you're going to have all the tools then to be able to take this back and immediately put this into your business too. Think about the culture. Think about the impact this could have. This one session alone could have on the impact of your business. So, Beth, any last points you want to share with everyone?
Well, I'm just excited for us to get all together. And so I hope that the people are coming are doers, right? So many times we go to conferences and we consume all the content, but then we don't go back and put the boots on the ground. And what I'm excited about for this session is that I'm going to give you actionable tools that you can go back into your schools and you can implement right away, and just to get your people on board, and truly, Nick, it's a retention strategy. I know so many of the things we're going to talk about are staff retention, right? Because as we say this in Texas. This might be new to you. Have you ever heard the phrase, it's cheaper to keep her?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Same principle.
Talking about divorce, right?
Yeah.
Very tacky. It's a very tacky phrase. However, when you're thinking in terms of your team, it is much more cost effective to hang on to the team that you have and to retain those quality staff members that you really, really want to keep. And when you get to know them and you get to see them as people and you get to see them as the truly, you may have a beautiful building, but about 90% of the value of your service is delivered 100%. In what those teachers bring to your families.
Yeah.
And so knowing who your people are and understanding them and giving you a pathway to get them and to understand what motivates them and what might make them stay when things get hard. Because the truth is right now, things are hard.
Yeah.
They're hard in those centers, and in the U.S., even, and I'm sure, I don't know, maybe it appears that the children in the U.K. are just much more well-behaved because they just speak much more eloquently with the dialect, right?
I'm not going to go into that one.
We have children whose thinking caps fall off, right? And so, there's some challenging behaviors that we're seeing.
Same.
And it's harder for the teachers. These kids are just trying to figure out like what's happening in their world, and adults, we don't even know what's happening in our world.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, totally.
And so, I think just being able to understand that when leaders understand and they get their people, that is a retention strategy. So not only am I going to give you some tools, I'm going to give you some strategies that are going to help you to connect to your team and hopefully create that culture and environment that you really want to have.
Nice. I'm super excited about that. And the big difference, I think, what we're trying to do with this event over any other event, whatever industry it is that I don't want people just to come along and sit there and listen to speakers and then go, oh, that was great, and then not take anything away. We've really picked not only the best speakers in what they do, but we've really made it clear to every single speaker that we want them to come with actionable steps that people can do in the sessions, not just talk at them for 40 minutes, and then just leave them with nothing to go away and then just be a head full of information. We want people to come, the speakers, to bring along all these amazing tactics for you and give you the blueprints, the resources, the templates that not only you can do in the sessions, but you can then take that away and implement it straight away when you get it back into your business too. So, Beth, absolutely. I'm super excited to have you there. I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face. We haven't had that opportunity yet. And guys, if you have any questions about Beth's session, or if there's anything that's coming up to you right now, drop them in the comments down below, of course, as always. And if you haven't got your tickets yet for Childcare Business Growth Live, make sure you get them booked. We'll be releasing virtual tickets very soon as well. So if you can't attend live, you're more than welcome to come virtual. But Beth, I'm very grateful for you jumping on. I know you've got a really busy day, so I'm going to leave you go, and I look forward to seeing you in Orlando very soon.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for the opportunity, Nick.
Thanks, Beth.